Uh, okay, let me hit a. Okay, recording in progress. Okay, and bench sitter for a few JV teams. And I was just sitting there going, how in the heck did I get in this class? And I really felt bad when he asked, okay, was a president of their school at graduation and who was a valedictorian? Well, it was me and three or four other guys who were still sitting when the commandant was done. And back to my question, how in the heck did I get into the Air Force Academy? Let's address this next session is Kirkman's military officer potential. In BCT, my skills in the military were quickly recognized, and that resulted in me almost being a charter member of the Goon Squad. Now, any of you also get to go to the Goon Squad at least a week? Nobody's offering up that claim. For me, it was meeting the track team, and I think it was up in the Terrazzo, and then we got to run down to the track, and for a number of hours, we were sprinting up the sides of the track, and then to rest, they'd let us jog around the actual track. But my marching skills and other military skills picked up quickly after getting to meet the track team that one day. Never got nominated again. Later on that year, I had DK Shelton and Tom Fishburne as roommates. And we were in a corner room, and adjacent room around the corner was Ron Bond, third classman, and another guy, really nice guy that I can't remember the name of. I guess you only remember the ones that sometimes you had a interaction with that was negative. For Ron Bond, he decided that he needed to motivate me to be in the academy by yelling at me. And I got to do so many uniform drills outside of our door. I couldn't count them. And he would ambush me. We had the cadet store very close to 11th Squadron. So that was another place where he could get me and call me in for additional harassment. So Ron was out to get me, I was convinced, and vice versa. Around Thanksgiving time, Ron went off to be with his family. And during that time, I had already designed and built a system that we installed in his radiator. We took it apart, put a speaker in it. For those of you who are not in EE, a speaker can be used to broadcast information and as a microphone. So we had a switch in our room where we could tune in to Ron. Another purpose of the speaker was Ron came back on Thanksgiving with a brand new Kenwood receiver stereo. And I took time listening to when he was in his room, and I'd play sine waves in it and white noise, like static on a radio, and then turn it off and listen to him yelling. And so that took a little bit of the yelling off my shoulder because Ron was always yelling at his Kenwood. One afternoon, while we were spying on our adjacent roommates, we found out that they were going to have peer ratings. And so we decided it was a good idea to take our class in our room and listen to them go through the different people that they were rating. And my classmates and other folks in the squadron got generally positive reviews. And then they came to me, and the evaluation was taken over by Ron Bond, who was speaking on my behalf. And he said, Kirkman, when you look in his eyes, there's nothing. And meanwhile, my classmates in our room were just roaring at the irony that Ron was saying there was nothing, and we were listening to him in a system that I had built. Ron's unfortunately stereo spent a considerable time in the cadet store for repairs, so we got him with that one. The noises continued, and so did Ron's yelling throughout the year. So anyway, we were almost done with Ron, and the mom of one of my roommates, it was either DK or Tom Fishburne's mom, made up a boodle package. And a key ingredient of the boodle package was X-Lax bars. And we had those confiscated by Ron Bond before Hell Week. And poor old Ron never made a run during Hell Week. He was mysteriously in his room having intestinal problems. One of the things I had to do my dual year was end up with transportation. I developed a girlfriend, and she was up in Boulder. And so I had an opportunity through her family to purchase a 56 Chevy. And the Chevy came from a Monsignor in their Catholic church. And I had to get the car working. So that required me to do a lot of streets of Colorado Springs repairs and get the car so it was working. And that car, wish I had it today. They're selling for many tens of thousands of dollars as a 56 Chevy. To keep the car secret, I had a family that decided to register the car for me. And I had insurance through USAA, renter's insurance, which covered the risks of that. But I had a couple of favorite parking spots. One of them was next to Arnold Hall. There's a tiny little lot between Arnold Hall and the Falcon Ears building. And I parked there, but then I noticed that people were looking at me as I was taking the snow off the car. So I found the best location in the world, which was parking in the Wade's parking lot. And to get to my car, I would go into the basement of the academic building, where for some reason they had a bathroom for the instructors. And I'd put on my long trench coat, my mirror sunglasses, and a straw hat. And then I'd walk to the parking lot, pick up my car, and never had my car towed or any problems with that. My disguise was so good that I picked up a good friend of mine, gave him a ride into town to a favorite bar, and dropped him off. And the next day I asked him how he enjoyed his ride to Colorado Springs, but fortunately he never broke the card, the code that was me. To to finance the operation of this car, I invented a job, which is fixing TVs on North Nevada for hotels. And they loved me. And I could turn around broken TVs and get them repaired. And my prices were good enough for me to keep the car going, but not too taxing on the owners of these hotels. And I guess I figured out that maybe somehow the Monsignor must have arranged for grace for me for all my transgressions at the academy. I have this need, in addition to our spying capability, to improve our room. And as a second classman, Jerry Wyand and Jim O'Neill and I decided we needed a TV set. Where we kept the TV set was inside a speaker cabinet. There's one on each side, very high. And the speaker cabinet had a prop to open up the hinged part of the speaker so you could see the TV. And this was wired into the stereo system so that whenever the lid speaker was released, it would turn off the speaker's sound source and make it just a local radio station. So to make this happen, we put a micro switch on the door, and anybody who opened the door within just a very small percentage of an inch would click the switch and would pull a solenoid, give it power to pull that prop of the speaker and close the speaker. And the word was out that we had a TV, and we got visited so many times on Saturday mornings. And our AOC, Major Reed, one day was checking in the laundry bin, and we had salted that with some Hershey's chocolate syrup, and that ended his inspecting our laundry bin. The staff of 20th Squadron would go look through the louvers in our door, and they'd see men's legs sitting on the bottom bunk, and they'd crack open the door only to have the speaker retract, and they'd look at us, and it was just a bunch of guys sitting there wearing headphones looking up at the top shelf by the window. So we never had anybody beat the system, and we were very, very proud of that. What else? I also added another feature later, which is the automatic curtain opener system, where I hit a switch on my bed and the curtains would part to regulation and then stop. So I guess one last thing is, you may remember on the terrazzo that there were occasionally, we got to get out of this place music playing. And that was from our fail-safe system in our room. We'd open the windows, had it on a timer so that when everybody was sitting at the formation, they would hear very loudly, "We got to get out of this place." But the timer would also shut the system off, and we would have all the staff and the AOCs running around to try and detect where it's coming from. But with the switch on the door, they saw nothing and moved on to other rooms to find the problem. So anyway, that's my stories, and be glad to take any questions you have, if you have any at all.
Well, Bill, now we know why you're in our class, if you've been wondering. Uh, I want to take a second for the commercial. I put in the chat some information about the Polaris Society, and you might want to take a look at some of those links I put in there. What strikes me is that many of you may not be becoming members of the Polaris Society because you don't want to pay some lawyer a large amount of money to redo your estate plan and so forth. And I put in to the chat some suggestions about how you could do that without redoing the whole thing. I mean, the two ideas is that if you have an IRA or an insurance policy or a retirement account, you can change the beneficiary and give a certain portion of it to a charity, and then the rest of it to whoever you planned in the first place. It's really bad luck at this age to cancel your life insurance. So you can, instead of canceling it, you can just provide that 10% of it or half of it or something goes to the academy. And what's at stake here is that our class is the class that has the most members of the Polaris Society. That's the good news. The bad news is it's only 28 people. And the other bad news is the class of 73, our squats are the next ones behind us. So take a look at what's in that chat. If you call Dale Shockey up, he'll help you with, exactly whatever you want to do. I thought that the next person we're going to recognize is Roger Hill.
I'm here.
Okay.
Just wanted to give you a little bit update on a couple of fallen classmates that I just received word on. Dave Cherub and Steve Roberts both died recently. I don't have any information about funeral arrangements, burials, etc. Also, for those of you, especially in the Washington, D.C. area, our classmate Charlie Smithson is going to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery on June the 6th. I'm sorry, I misspoke. July the 6th at 9 a.m. And I will try to send out information to folks. My email, b737kid@AOL. If anybody needs some more specific information, let me know. And the final item is I just wanted to recognize about 10 to 12 of our classmates, all living here in the local Colorado Springs, Castle Rock area. As you may be aware of, we have the red pennants that we put out for every fallen classmate's funeral who's buried at the Academy Cemetery. For Memorial Day weekend, we also put out the pennants, and CJ Bone is the leader of the group. Rich Downing, John Gallagher, and myself were the ones that put them out for Memorial Day. And also, I see two of my roommates, Smokey Stover and Dave Gaw, are also on the committee. And we just feel it's a great way to honor our fallen classmates. And as we all know, the number of fallen is going to get larger as time progresses. But just wanted to know that we're here locally in Colorado, really honoring our classmates and all they meant to us. Thanks.
So I guess what we wanted as many people to speak as possible. So why don't everybody else take about 3 minutes each and just tell us whatever you want to say. And the only way, I guess, to get through this is if you put your electronic hand up, then is that how it is?
Yeah, I think just want to anybody can unmute. You should be able to unmute yourself and chat now. I think I know it'll be like herding goats, but probably just start out.
See what happens.
Yeah. What could go wrong unless Colby talks first?
Why? Because pastors get paid by the word?
That's right. That's right. Let me introduce for any of you who don't know Phil Colby. Phil Colby and I were roommates in 19. We spent our last 2 years in 19 Squadron. And for those 2 years, we were roommates. And the reason why we were roommates, and Vic Bradford's on here too, and he can assert the the veracity of what I'm saying is none of our other classmates would room with us. We got stuck together for 2 full years. It was a great time, and I think we proved that no one else should have ever roomed with us.
The
It was a great
AOC
team.
asked Shafe, what do you want to do? What position do you want in your last semester? And he said, Colby's roommate. I'll give a quick update on me. I'm still in prison. I do prison ministry at DeSoto Correctional Institution in Florida. And I do Kairos prison ministry, and we do weekends, and we do a reunion every month. I also started an American Legion post in that prison, and I have about 22 Legionnaires and 24 Sons of the American Legion. And it's a great post. These guys are really dedicated to it. This is a maximum security prison, so about a third of my guys are lifers, but they find true meaning in serving in the post. And I also am the site coordinator for TUMI, which is the Urban Ministry Institute. And I have 16 inmates who are studying to be pastors in seminary classes that I teach along with a lot of volunteers. So it's a great ministry that I see miracles happen in that prison. So it's amazing to see, and it's a great opportunity. So I've come a long way since I was president of the Saturday Afternoon Drinking Club at the Kachina Lounge.
Of which you were unanimously reelected every year.
So Mike and Harry, you want to go?
There we go. Can you hear us now?
There you go. Yep.
We're reporting from the Air Force Academy baseball game. We're at the pregame get-together, and we thought we'd just say hi. If you look around, you can see we have a couple hundred people here. And
two red hats.
2 red hats. And if those of you who haven't heard, I suspect you all have, UT is playing Air Force at 1 o'clock for the regional finals, and it's a double elimination tournament. So we'll play today and tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll win today. The last time we played UT, we split games, but we'll see what happens. Sorry, we can't be there with you.
Wish you were here with us. Yeah.
So that's Lambert and Strip Matter, and while Bill had your hand up, why don't you unmute next?
Hey guys, great idea. Thank you for including me. I just had 2 quick stories. I loved being there. I love the challenge. I love being with all you guys. And our best friends in the world are from our class. So I got the academy, and about 2 weeks later, a second classman named Paul Gosnell gave me a Form 10 for gross indifference to the 4th class system. Now, I'm not sure why he thought that. I did go to military college for 1 year before I showed up, because then I knew how to say yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, do all the push-ups you want, sir. And he thought I was being disrespectful. I was just being me. And he found out that I went to the military college. He'd actually applied there and instead got in the Air Force. Took me an extra year to get in the Air Force. And guess who Captain Gosnell's IP was at pilot training? I said, sit down, Captain Gosnell. I'm going to teach you to fly. And after I gave him 10 spins on his dollar ride, he says, are we even? And we went on from there. The second best thing is my mom, a wife of an Army colonel, West Pointer, 53. I was too old to be his son, but people thought he got away with something. She told me to bring my mess dress to Hawaii. I'm going, Mom, I'm just coming for Christmas vacation. She says, I've got something special. I bring the mess dress, and she says, I've got 5 parties set up for you. I went, well, wow, Mom, that's nice. She says, the colonel's coming out. They're having a debutante party, and you get to escort one of the debutantes for 5 nights. I said, yay. So I get my mess dress on, and I go there, and I'm feeling pretty hot. You know, I'm 19 years old, wearing my uniform, being cool. I didn't bring a sash because I didn't really have one, but my mom said I should have one. So I meet this young lady, and she is absolutely drop dead pretty, and she gets assigned a midshipman and me. 3 days in, she says that she doesn't need the midshipman anymore. I'm going, yabba dabba do. I'm pretty excited. She says, well, let's go park at the top of Diamond Head. We were in Hawaii. And I'm up in the convertible Datsun driving, and she's sitting next to me. I'm trying not to look down her dress. Okay, let's be very clear. She's a little shorter than I am. Okay, she saw me looking, and she puts her hand in my lap and squeezes and says, I got a plan. I went, yes, ma'am. Tell me you love me. We'll make love. We'll announce our engagement in the morning, and we will be a general. I went, wow, really? That's easy as that? I said, the honor code got in the way. I said, ma'am, I really like you. We don't know each other 3 days. She just take me home. So I wasn't very good at girls back then, but great fun with all the classmates. And I invite any of you to come to Mountain Air in Western North Carolina and play golf with me. We've had maybe 10 of our classmates up there. I know Timmy Caden, Tommy Wasco, Yogi Royce, Roger Riggs, Ed Cole were all here. And Ed Cole thought he was going to have 36 balls and never have to play anymore. And our classmates would go find balls for him when he hit one of the woods. And he hit a lot in the woods. Ed, you got through the whole round, didn't you? Thank you, guys. I love you all, and I want the best. And anybody know what's happened to Tony? Was it DeSantis who had a stroke? Anybody know anything about Tony? I'll be quiet now.
All right. So who's next?
I think Kurt wants to talk. He's got to unmute first. There you go.
I have nothing to say. I'm late. I had the wrong code. I was outside playing. No excuse, sir.
Well, I've got a couple of things to say, Dave Sterling. 3 things. First, at the academy, I was in the master's prep program for Double E, and the last semester, it was being taught by the head of the Double E department, and he says, "I'm going to be gone for a couple of months. I got to go to Southeast Asia to work on a new thing called a gunship, AC-130 gunship. They're having problems with the electrical sensors." We said, okay. And so the 3 of us got together and said, hey, can you buy us stereos while you're over there? And he said, well, I guess so. So he sent us a PAC-X catalog, and we all ordered our stereos as seniors, had them delivered to our houses. So that was a benefit that we had. So fast forward to after I retired, I was a navigator in the Air Force and always thought about getting a pilot's license. And Tim Carey, our classmate, lived in a local area out of Manassas. And he said, Dave, I just got my CFI, my instructor ticket. And I said, Tim, that's great. I'll tell you what, I'll be your first student. So the 2 of us were flying around Northern Virginia, talking mostly about war stories, doing some flying as well. But he got me through my pilot certificate. And then he said, Dave, I'm in this organization called Civil Air Patrol, the auxiliary of the Air Force. Are you interested? And I said, well, I'd like to. Where they meet? And he says, well, we meet at Manassas. Well, I'm in McLean, so going out Interstate 66 in the evenings for the meeting was just no go for me. So instead, I joined another wing that met in Arlington, and now I'm the wing commander. So after 52 years, I'm the wing commander of the National Capital Wing, and I have 4 Cessna airplanes and about 500 people. But as you know, they're all volunteers. So it's like herding cats, absolutely herding cats. Can't tell anybody to do anything, can only ask. So anyway, that's what I'm doing now. So glad to see you all, especially the people who still have hair.
Yeah. So Tom Jones has got his hand up.
Yeah.
I just have a couple things. One is I flew with Dave Sterling at McCord, and he is a really good navigator. I never got lost once, or he never got us lost once. And just a quick remark about that picture behind me. That's actually our graduation picture as taken by my mother. And somewhere towards the back of that crowd, hidden by my shoulders, is where I'm sitting. I had to tell my mother we graduated by age, so she would understand why it took so long for me to get on the platform. But anyway, I really appreciate seeing all you guys again and being in touch. I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest with a few other grads, and I live in Pierce County, Washington. There's a few of us around and down in Oregon. But anyway, if you're through Tacoma, I'm just about under the McCord traffic pattern.
Yeah, our Central Texas meetings of the class of 70 have gone around to be on the first Friday, which of course is today. But if you show up in Austin and give us a little bit of warning, we'll change the date to be occurring while you're there.
Yeah, one other quick thing I see, I got a hi from John Lenihan. We actually used to be neighbors, but I guess our neighborhood wasn't Tony enough for him, so he's moved up closer to Seattle.
All right, so Roy, what's up?
Well, I couldn't resist following Tom, my old roommate. Tom, how you doing? It has been a while. I finally retired after 41 years of federal service this past December. Of course, most of it was with DOE, and then a lot of that was with the oil patch, which I'm still involved in down here in Houston. But one of the things I did want to check on was somebody I think all of you remember is Ken White. I don't know if you can actually see this, but when pilot training, Ken he was, of course, at the zoo. He was our primary artist for the dodo. And in pilot training, he came up with our patch. I don't know if you can read it. It's Veiny VDXy, and of course, a big F for Sphygmo at the top. But he was one of the funniest guys I saw. I remember one of his cartoons he put into our pilot training annual. Matter of fact, if anyone wants some, I'll take a bunch of pictures and send them around. Incredibly creative cartoonist. And one of the things was in a T-37 says it's important to understand your emergency procedures so you don't die all tensed up. And it shows the student there, wrapped around his oxygen mask, going through the checklist. The instructor is already bailed out. She's jetting out with a big AMF on the right side. So at any rate, some of these things that he came up with were incredible. But at any rate, I've got those in our annual, and that some of the things that we had, really great times at the academy, courtesy of the dodo, and back in the days of the flu season and bringing out your dead, etc. Things that bond us together. It's really great to seeing you guys. Like you say, it's great to see everybody with hair, and the ones that don't have, hey, hang in there. Let's all hang in there and do another 8 years, and we'll do it to our 60th. How's that sound?
Good idea.
Well, this is Winston Hammerud, and I'm in Northern Virginia, and I do have some contact. We get on with the Red Tag Roundtable that Gary set up, Gary Baglier, and he enjoys the things that I write in there. Completely don't agree on anything, but we have good interactions. And basically, my life is centered around just like I was impressed with I can't remember who talked about the prison ministry, but is about sharing the gospel. And I got a book I published. It's you can get it on Barnes and Noble online and also Amazon, called "Every Day for a Year: Bible Thoughts and Interactions." So that's kind of like it takes a lot of my time. And my daughter Kelsey said, "Dad, I want you to get on Instagram and all that." So she set up an Instagram thing. It's called Winston the Bible Guy is my title. So if you ever want to see anything that I do in terms of that, you can just go onto Instagram call that up, and I say little 1-minute things from the scriptures, but that's where my heart is. That's my heart, and it's been my heart like for all the decades since we've been through the academy. I retired from the government with like 39 years, and then worked as a contractor for about 8 years. So I'm in the DC area and doing okay by the grace of God. So that's it's good seeing all you guys.
Good. Dave? Unmute.
Oh,
Yes, there you go. Got it. Dave.
Yeah.
I just I saw George Crow sitting over there, and last time I talked to you, George, you were concerned about your arm. I just wonder if you give us an update on that and how your retirement is going.
Well, I am not worthy to be sitting with you all. I graduated June 30. While you all were assembled at the stadium, I was at a motel with my parents. But I did enjoy the flyover from a distance, and I salute all of y'all. Can't use my right arm. I lost my bicep. That's just life. I'm glad I have my left one, and I thoroughly enjoy retirement. I flew helicopters. Rather than going to pilot school at the end of the 5 years, I was ready to get out of the Air Force, went to seminary because I'd made a commitment to Christ somewhere along the way after graduating, and got to start a church and stay there for 41 years and retired 2 years ago and came up to Charlotte and am learning to be a grandfather at the age now of 74, and really enjoyed and really appreciate just getting to know you all and being able to touch base with you on circumstances like this. So God bless you guys, and let's go 7-0.
George, this is Tom Walters. I've always found it fascinating that the two helicopter pilots that I knew, you and Brian McDowell, after flying helicopters in rescue in Vietnam, decided to go to a seminary afterwards. Was there a connection there?
Well, the Bible says, "For lo, I am with you." So those of us near the ground, it was just pretty inevitable. And Marty Martin was another one that went to seminary, and I think he did I think while he was with Air Rescue or whatever it was called back in the States after graduation, I think he doubled as the executive pastor of Cherry something church there in Denver while he was there, but don't know anything about that other than just a real privilege.
Yeah, he was flying at Air Methods up in Denver for a while and doing part-time pastoral stuff. He and Steve Bloomquist both were flying helicopters for them, and then Steve went on to a different company. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with Mike Gregerson. I don't know how many of you remember Mike. He was also a helicopter pilot, and I did not know his history. He was a flew gunships and air rescue with picking up a lot of guys in Cambodia and places we weren't supposed to fly. He had a fairly significant covert ops kind of flying in his helicopter tour over there. And right now he's got some Parkinson's that's tied into the Agent Orange stuff. They would be sitting in these LZs waiting to pick up some of these long range patrols, and the ranch hand guys just fly over the jungle where they were sitting and just drop a bunch of Agent Orange all over the jungle. And so they got a lot of that apparently, but he was up there in his RV and just traveling the country. But you might pray for him.
Hey, George. Another graduate on June 30 was Tom Rosenstock, Rosie Rosenstock. And we have always humorously called him the valedictorian of his class. And of course, he passed away in 1979. So he doesn't get to respond to that, but he has a lot of hilarious stories about that time period in June of 1970. And he also, I don't know how true this is, but he did not tell his parents that his graduation was delayed. So they came out on June 3rd to see him graduate. And we had a big afternoon barbecue up at Ted Colson's house up in Denver. And his parents were there and Rosie was there. And I don't think they even knew that afternoon that he didn't graduate that day.
Well, he was a great guy. The reason he was a great guy, and I post every June 30 that he was our valedictorian that left way too early. And the reason he graduated late was he was kind enough with me to go into Colorado Springs and pick up my motorcycle. And I cannot remember the circumstances why we were riding back with him on the back. I just can't remember what in heaven's name would have put him on the back of my motorcycle. And that's where we were caught. Graduated a little late.
This is Gary Covington. What do I have to do to put my hand up?
Yeah, you got it. Go, Gary.
I wish to thank my classmates for pointing out two guys that graduated later than I did.
And this is John D. Filippo. I couldn't find the raise your hand either, so I'll just speak if that's okay.
Oh.
I want to do a shout out and then a little story. So first shout out is I live in Houston, Texas, and we do get a little rain down here. And I was one of those guys on the news that flooded out 2 or 3 years ago. And I mean, it is a freaking mess when you flood, but our classmates is also, Harry Stripmatter shows up with all his tools and spends 3 days getting me out is what they call it. And I really, all of our classmates, I've been so blessed with a lot of people around here. But I wanted to tell a little story after that. Second lieutenant, I ended up at Dover Air Force Base. I was a computer science major, so they put me in the computer room, and some colonel comes in and says, "Do you really want to spend your time here? Don't you want to go somewhere else? We're going around the world. You want to come with us?" So I hop on a C-141, take off, end up in Frankfurt, Germany, and there's an Annapolis guy, 70 guy on this flight out there, and we decide not to go around the world, but to hop off and go to Copenhagen. We have no passport. We have no money except some checks. We get off the plane and up to Copenhagen, and not realizing that when you go through borders, you need a passport. So we are escaping and evading the guys that come through to look for your passports. We end up in Copenhagen and very little money, trying to convince people to cash checks periodically, which once in a while we get someone to cash a $15 check for us so we can buy beer. Sleep out in front of the hostel because we don't want to waste our money in the hostel. There was plenty of beautiful women, so we decided to spend our money doing that. Same coming back. Finally ended up back in Dover and back, but I've had a great time, and it's been wonderful to connect with our classmates here throughout the years. That's it for me.
Tom Smith.
Yeah, hey, all this discussion about roommates and uniform formations and all of that. I had a roommate. Does anyone recall Morris Shelkovsky? Anyway, he was my roommate as a dually, and he had so many uniform formations that we would, you would listen to him out in the hall, and he would report, and he would give his, service number. We all had his service number memorized because we had heard it so many times. And of course, we're all standing inside the door. And when they told him, what uniform he had to change into, he'd come running to the door. We'd have his uniform ready. We'd rip all his clothes off and throw the uniform on him and shove him back out the door again. But he had a really unique talent, and that was that he could sleep with his eyes open. And it was just something that he did. We all thought it was so cool that when he was asleep, would get everybody in the room and go, "Hey, you got to check this out." And so he was asleep, but his eyes were open, and he would like wake up and he'd look, and there's like 30 guys all staring at him. He goes, "Was I doing it again?" Yeah, it was awesome. It was friggin' awesome. So I don't know. I haven't, I kind of lost touch with him over the years, so I don't know if anybody's ever run into him or not. But great memories. Those uniform formations were brutal.
I think Morris may be up in Wisconsin somewhere. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, and then so many great memories. Kirby Van Horn. I mean, who can forget Kirby Van Horn, right? And I have lost touch with him too. I haven't seen him at any reunions. Does anybody have any idea where Kirby is? Oh,
He was in Houston. He may be back in Montana now.
yeah, he was from Montana, but yeah. Kirby kind of always led with his face, but it was unbelievable. All right, thanks, guys.
Joe?
Here I am. I'm going to have to check out in just a few minutes to go do some barn chores. I heard a couple of names. First of all, see so many people here that I have such wonderful and fond memories of, and it's truly a joy. And I appreciate you guys in Texas putting this together, and Doug Carlson for giving me a heads up about it this morning. Somebody mentioned Paul Gosnell from 68. I served with him over at Bentwaters right after he was new in the F4 at the time. Paul died a couple of years ago over in Fernandina Beach, I believe. But he was a good man from 68. Phil Colby was talking about prison ministry in Kairos, and I was nodding my head. So Phil, you're over in the Panama City East Point area?
No, I'm down in the center of the state. In
Okay.
Arcadia is where my prison is.
The city of my birth. Well, town of my birth, I guess. Come to think about it. All right. A long lost classmate of ours, number one graduate, Steve Berta. I went on third lieutenant with him to Southeast Asia in the summer of 1969. And I think about 5 years later, he was killed in an F4 accident over Germany, flying out of Bentwaters. So shout out and remembrance to our classmate, Steve. Somebody earlier mentioned Ken White, and he was in Fighting Fourth with me that summer of 1966. I remember specifically being in a shower formation, and we were going through some basic knowledge, and Ken said that the major's insignia was actually a maple leaf. So that got us an extra 5 minutes braced up against the wall while guys from 67 were arguing with Ken about the difference between an oak leaf and a maple leaf. Ken never backed down, never once. I saw Lenahan here a few minutes ago. Where's he at? He actually has less hair than I do. Didn't you have a girlfriend who was Miss America?
Whoa, you have a good memory. Yes, I did. That was my Dooley year, 70. We subsequently broke up, but that was it was a good time, high school sweetheart kind of thing. But I wound up marrying a gal that I actually went to grade school with, and we just had our 50th anniversary last year, so that worked out even better. But,
pretty cool. In Michigan, right?
Yeah, she was Michigan and then became Miss America our Dooley year. She was Miss Michigan the year before.
And just an update before I check out with you guys. I'm up here in North Florida, practically in Georgia, just south of Valdosta. The two things that occupy me now are I'm an Episcopal priest for a very small Episcopal church I came to the ministry much later than my friend George Crow did, only about 10 years ago. But it is truly a joy to be a pastor for a small flock, and at the same time be in the process of training my replacement with, by God's grace and with the bishop's concurrence. And secondly, I'm involved in family forestry and babysitting about 2,200 acres of pine timber and here in North Florida. Tends to keep me fairly well occupied. So I'm looking at that picture that Tom Jones has that his mother took, and one of my claims to fame is that I graduated in the top half of my class, and the guy who was sitting on my left was in the bottom half of my class. You can do the numbers. I was 372, so that's set in the middle. But I think I speak for a lot of us that that time that I spent with you guys from 1966 to 1970 was a highlight of my life, and I thank God for it, and I thank God for each one of you.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
First, this is absolutely great. It's fantastic to see so many of us together in one place, upright as it may be, or seated, but at least semi-upright. I want to thank Tom O and the North Texas guys for setting this up. About 2 years ago or so, I set up a graduating blackjack Zoom that we do on a monthly basis. And somebody earlier was making a comment about when the big hand is on one and the little hand is on another, what time is it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we have ours on the 21st of every month at 2100 Eastern, and that should make it easy for most guys to remember. But we have some guys in the Central Time Zone who are always an hour late joining. And some guys on the West Coast never even make it. So it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Just a couple things. If you're not, if you're on Facebook and you're not part of the class page, I strongly encourage you to join and get on it, because a lot of us are keeping in touch with other classmates through that class page, not to mention all kinds of class information comes out on it on a pretty regular basis. To the extent any of you have any even passing interest in politics or the direction of the country, we have something, I think it was Wynn earlier who mentioned the Red Tag Roundtable that I created about 5 or 6 years ago to get all that kind of discussion off the class page and leave the class page available for rah-rah school stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And Mike Toriano has done a pretty good job of monitoring the class page to keep the political stuff off it. So shout out to Tor for that. But if anyone is interested in a really free-flowing discussion with absolutely no monitoring, I keep getting notes from Facebook that because there's so much false information and misleading information that's put on that page, they're going to lower our position in the news feed. And I keep telling Facebook, we don't care, because that's the whole purpose we set this page up, was to let people say what's on their mind. And sunlight is still the best disinfectant. So we have a pretty free-flowing discussion, and I encourage anybody who's interested, who's not already on the page, get in touch with me. Call me, email me, text me, private message me, or contact me through Facebook, and I'll be happy to get you added to the Red Tag Roundtable. But a word of caution, hold on to your wigs and keys, because it can be a very bumpy ride. Some of you guys may remember Rocky Rockmore. who was with us through our third class year. Flip, are you still there? Yeah, I see you shaking your head.
Still here.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, Rocky got in touch with Flip and with me and told us, and this isn't public knowledge yet. I'm going to share it with the class. Flip, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Rocky set up, with our help, and a charitable foundation to assist any of our classmates who might be in need of some moderate financial assistance, and completely funded it himself. He made Flip and me and Gus Sorensen's widow, Maggie, the trustees of that foundation. It's named the Marius G. Sorensen Memorial Foundation, named after Gus because Rocky and Gus were close, and Rocky credits Gus with getting him at least through his third class year. I'm sure a lot of you remember Gus. So you can get in touch if you know any of our classmates who have fallen on hard times, and you don't want to let them know. You can let Flip know or me know, and we'll do what we can to help out through Rocky. Joe Boyles, I see you popped off the screen, so I'm going to hold my comment about Joe until I can see his face again. One story from my time at the zoo that you may not know about. I'm sure you know about my 2 failures in sailplanes, where I ended up having more successful takeoffs than I had successful landings. But in our last semester, I was honored to be on the wing staff as your activities officer. And I consider General Olds a mentor for more reasons than what I'm about to tell you. One day he calls me aside and asked me how I was getting around to see everybody. You know, we had the new dorm, Siegen Hall at the time, the new dorm. And I said, I walk over and it's pretty time consuming, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, come see me tomorrow. So I went over and dutifully reported, and he gives me a bicycle. And he says, use this bicycle to get around. Fine. So I pedal through the dorm. I go around, I take it up and down the stairs. I pedal over to the new dorm. One day I'm coming back from Blackjack, my graduation squadron, and I'm coming down into the area where the wing staff is, and it's late. It's way after taps. And I'm crossing down the main hallway, the east-west hallway, and the officer of the day, whom I've forgotten, comes unannounced through the cross hallway, and I just knocked him on his butt and left about a 20-foot black skid mark in the hallway that some dually had to buff out in the morning. I mean, I really knocked him on his butt. And he gets up and he dusts himself off, and I mean, I was a first classman, so he's not going to brace me. And at least I hoped he wouldn't, and he didn't. And he asked me what the hell was going on. I explained it to him. And he said these words, "We'll see about that." And the next day I get a call from General Olds' office. The general would like to see me. Fine. Bring your bicycle, says his secretary. Yeah. So I take the bicycle over to the comp shop and I report in. I duly salute. And he says, the door's closed, okay? He says, what the fuck did you do? Because he mentions the OD's name, complained that you knocked him on his butt last night on the bicycle. I did, sir. He, came around the corner and I was moving pretty quickly. It was late and I did. Well, give me back the bike. So I gave him the bicycle. He says, I'll let you know when to come back and get it, but we need to let this cool off for a little while. Fine. About a week later, I get a call. Mr. Bagley, do you have time to speak to General Olds? Oh, of course. Come get your GD bike out of my office. It's taking up too much space. So I went back, I got the bike, I brought it back, and it had a bell on it, on the handlebar. And I was advised that every time I crossed an intersection that I should signal with the bell in advance. And for the rest of the semester, exactly what I did. Now, in graduation, I left the bike in my room, and I have no idea what happened to it. Olds never asked me to return it, so I'm assuming that whoever, assuming all these years later, that bike is still operable, it's there somewhere. Okay, well, Joe Boyles, I've taken up too much time, but Joe Boyles still isn't back, so this is a shout out to Joe. For those of you who may not know, I post pretty routinely on Memorial Day or thereabout a tribute to the 9 of our classmates that we lost in Southeast Asia. That was originally, and I believe I gave credit to Joe. Joe, I think, wrote that in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And it's on our class page somewhere, and I encourage you all to just take a few minutes to read it. The first time I read it, frankly, it brought tears to my eyes, and it's Joe's recollection of his friendship with the 9 of our classmates. And on that note, Joe, I salute you. Gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to remain as your classmate, and for those of you who still communicate with me, for doing that. For those of you that you don't, please be my guest. I'd love to hear from you. I'm here in Hollywood, Florida. I'm close to the Fort Lauderdale Airport and the Fort Lauderdale Seaport. If any of you are taking cruises out of Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach or even Miami, let me know. I'd love to get together, have a cup of coffee or an adult beverage, as Dick Roshkob would refer to it. We've tried with some of our classmates. Sometimes it just isn't possible, but I'd love to see as many of you as I can. The days are growing shorter. The nights are growing longer. Let's keep this going. Tom, what a great idea. Thank you very much.
You're here.
So, Tom, I think Brendan had Sully had his hand up.
Yeah, Brendan, you got. Have you got your speaker on?
Sully, we can't hear you.
I made the same mistake, Sully. I made the same mistake yesterday in another Zoom call. Perhaps you have your headphones laid down and they're taking up your speaker. So we can watch you move your mouth.
Of course, this could be for the best.
Hey, while he's figuring it out, Sylvester, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, this is Terry Sylvester. I just want to throw a shout out to our classmate, Dick Christie, who we lost in Southeast Asia. I've got lots of fond memories of him and our other 8 classmates that we lost. But Richard in particular introduced me to his sister, Janet, who I've been happily married to for 50 years. She's sitting over here next to me. And so those are some fond memories. I spent 30 years in the Air Force, and then I retired and spent a year building our dream home on a lake up here in northern New York, where I'm sitting right now. And then I spent 3 years working. I spent 3 years working for a large church in town, Shalimar Methodist Church. And since then, I've just been enjoying life. And Janet and I have joined a retirement community called Fleet Landing there by Jacksonville, Atlantic Beach, which is founded by some Navy officers about 30 years ago. And we're there 8 months in the wintertime, and then 4 months we're up here in northern New York. So it's good seeing everybody. I don't recognize all of you old guys, but I do recognize some of the names. So it's good to see you, and thanks for putting this together.
You figured it out, Brendan?
And I should say hi to Sully, too, while I'm on here. Hi, Sully. I don't hear Sully.
I think, Brendan Sully was a personnel officer. He's probably said enough.
So Ray, I think you probably got it since you're the next one in line until Joe gets back and Sully figures out where his headphones are.
Okay. I don't know if this is working. I've never used my phone for Zoom meetings. Am I okay?
You're okay.
Great. First of all, Terry, where are you in New York? I'm on Seneca Lake. Been retired.
Okay. I'm on Tupper Lake, not too far from Saranac Lake.
Oh, okay. Up near Plattsburgh. I used to be stationed up there years ago when it was a base.
Yes, not too far from Plattsburgh.
So yeah, we're same neck of the woods. Well, I came back to the Finger Lakes because of wine more than anything else.
That's a good reason.
I'm thinking so. So I'd like to say thanks for your service and for all that you had to say there a few minutes ago. Also to Joe Boyles, my roommate, Doug Carlson, my squadron mate, and Gary Bagleeper, all you guys, especially the guys from Texas. Thanks for setting this up. I'm kind of in between on chores today, and in the background you can hear my wife mowing the lawn. It was her birthday recently, and I bought her one of those power mowers so she can mow the lawn so I don't hurt my back anymore. And then for our anniversary, which is tomorrow, I bought her a hammock so she can rest after she uses the lawnmower. That's all. That's all from Watkins Glen, New York.
I know. I just wanted you for next time. Come look. Come look.
On video.
Tell her it's okay. We won't bite.
Come over here and say hi.
No, I'm trying
Come on over.
I'm trying to show Terry how to work this. He's not very technical savvy, so I've been coaching him.
Speaking from experience, we need a great deal of coaching.
Hey, Solly, good to see you.
See the hands.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Ray Jones. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I tell you, first off, just really thank you for setting this up. It's really to see all the smiling faces out there. Boy, time does move on. I do send greetings from what I guess last reunion we started the Dooley Squadron get-togethers. So being in Frat 5, we got together and we've continued meeting since that time. We do get together occasionally also. These days are so special to reflect so much of our dear classmates. Today is especially vivid to me. June 3rd, of course, we graduated 52 years ago. For the graduation time, June week, my family came to Colorado, and John Hazelton's mother and brother came to Colorado. And our families just got linked up, and we're doing a bunch of things and staying together in the Manitou Springs. They had like a campground, and really wonderful time with John's mom and his brother. And the fond memories of John Hazelton. What a great guy he was. What a special guy.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he was probably, he was the squadron commander of 30th Squadron, and a part of his duty was cleaning out the amnesty locker, if you will. So for our June week get together, not that we were heavy drinkers, but he had this closet of unclaimed things. And we did pretty well, except that there was one weird drink that I've never heard of, and John and I were not familiar with it. It's a Greek drink called metoxa. And we literally just sipped on that stuff, and we were running around Colorado Springs the 3rd of June. And we didn't want to go home to our family because we could tell it was still, we were a bit feeling the effects of that alcohol. So we ended up staying out probably till 3 or 4 in the morning. We drank coffee, we had ice cream sundae, we're trying to get better, but that Metoxa, it hit us both really. And we finally recovered and got home, but I'll never forget that. We had a good time. Anyway, I know there are many things we could share, but what a great time of memory, and good to see all of y'all.
Hey, Ray, Tom Smith, your old roomie. Good to see you, buddy.
Oh yeah, good to see you too.
Mark had his hands up, guys.
Yeah, I'd just like to, first of all, thank all of you for coming together, but several of the stories that are with us today were in the storybook from the last reunion, if you got it. Now, if you didn't get it, there's a digital version that has a lot of dodo things added. All you need to do is send me, to mgewig@aol.com, and I will send you the digital version of it, because I know not everybody has it, despite Mike Lambert's great intentions. Several stories about General Olds. Mine was one that was kind of interesting. As 4th Group Commander, suddenly I get awakened by the 4th Group CQ in the middle of the night, and I'm not a person who wakes up well in the middle of the night. And he said, well, the Commandant's in the dorm. And I said, what is he doing? And this is, he said he's knocking on doors. I said, why? And he said, sir, I think he's probably drunk. So I immediately then ended up going to, put my uniform on. Fortunately, I knew him because even though I was a non-rated guy, I got a chance to take my T-33 flight with him to Salt Lake City. And it was one of the highlights of my career, needless to say, there and back. And I came to him and said, General, these cadets need their sleep. And so he said, oh, okay. Well, before that, I fortunately had called the Commandant's quarters and had a staff car coming. And immediately the staff car was there at the bottom of the ramp when I got him down there. And the story ended for 50 years. Nothing ever came beyond that. And the only other thing I want to say is, for those of you who think this is my real hair, and the only thing I can basically say that attributed to it was 20 years of teaching high school social studies. So anyway, the stories that many of you, like George Crow and Bill Kirkman, the stories you heard, there's so many great ones. If you haven't looked through it, or like I say, send me an email and I will get a digital copy to you. And if any of you have additional stories, I think for maybe 55 or even 60, I will just expand that. So keep that in mind, because I've been hearing some great stories from that former classmate of mine in 9th Squadron, Bill Reich, who said some great things the other day, and I'm going to get him to write these stories down and add it to it. It'll just be additions to what's in there already. And because it's digital, it flies real fast. Anyway, thanks everybody. It's been a great class as always.
Can you put your email in the chat, Mark?
I will.
Okay. And there's still a few people that haven't gotten to speak. They want to get ahead of Bill.
Hey, just a shout out to Bill Kirkman for breaking the ice here.
Yeah, great.
Vic.
Well, Bill.
Want to let Vic up next, Tom?
I don't see Vic. Okay.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Hey, just wanted to follow up on what Mark said. Those are some excellent stories that are in that very voluminous section there. So, and they'll bring back a lot of memories, and there are some of the things that I share with cadets now and then when I talk with them. And I'd also like to thank you very much for setting this up, getting it together. And Don, what you and Troll said about being roommates there the last couple of years, we really remember that. You were certainly an inspiration to all of us. You and Troll and Mickey Harper would get together. Mickey was trying to be the last guy in the class, and he almost made it. He got, I think he was the next to the last.
He was.
Academically. And I remember him coming through. We'd all be trying to study really hard we'd be hitting the books, and Mickey would come by and he'd say, "Hey, let's take a break from all this striving. Let's go down and watch some TV in the break room." And he'd just mosey on down. He didn't care. But the last we heard, Mick had at least one PhD. He was a college professor.
Mm-hmm.
And I use his story very frequently when I'm with the cadets, and a lot of them still feel like, well, what am I doing here? I've dug myself into a hole. I'll never be able to get out. And I try to give them Mike's story about even if you're the next to the last guy in the class, you can zoom right up there to the heights. It's something not to give up hope and just to keep going. Phil, I also like to put out a little word that you're also a published author. This is one of the books that Phil has done in his spare time. And speaking of the Academy, I'm here in Colorado Springs with the contingent. And just to let you know that I think that the cadets here are taken care of very nicely now. It's the relationship that they have. I'm really inspired every time I go up there. It's not nearly as adversarial a relationship as I think we had. So it's really, again, very encouraging to know that the current classes are being taken care of as well as they are. If you ever get a chance to the leadership conferences, the character and leadership conferences that they have, many of them are on YouTube. And we attended one, and we're interacting with the cadets. We're sitting out at the table, and I heard 3 separate times, I really love it here. I really love this place. And you can imagine if we were there, if somebody said that, what the response would have been. And everybody agreed with them. They all said, yeah, we feel the same way that you do here. So it's very encouraging to know that the cadets are being taken care of as well as they are. And George, if you're still on, I'd like to maybe get your email somehow. We're trying to get a memorial together for, as many of you may know, they're setting up a rescue helicopter, an HH-3, at the Academy on static display. And we're trying to get something together for our classmate Chan Morse, who had a wonderful career as a HH-3 pilot as well as a test pilot for helicopters. So we'd maybe like to talk with you about that.
Great.
So again, thank you so much for the hospitality and for inviting everyone here. It's just been so good to see everyone.
Rick, are you up?
Yeah, I'm also in Colorado Springs. Hello to Tom Smith, my roommate senior year, and see several of you all from Colorado. We see frequently now, about every 2 months. One of my favorite memories of the Academy, when I was in Blackjack, my first 2 years, our firsties and second classmen loved to move airplanes. So it was something we became very good at. When I moved to 26, one evening the Dooley said, we want to do something really exciting. And I drew on my moving X4 skills out of Arnold Hall quad. There was one way to put it in the quad, that was with a huge crane to lower it into the quad. And there was several ways to get it out that involved tipping the tail, picking up a wheel. So we ended up taking it out of Arnold Hall over to the Air Gardens and putting it on the island behind the Eglin fledglings. We borrowed some I-beams that they were using to do the upgrades to Arnold Hall and put one down for each of the wheels as we rolled it out on this makeshift bridge. As we put the first wheel onto the first I-beam, we put it in the groove, the side of an I-beam. They're not designed to be bent that direction. It bent the wheel, but we finally got all the wheels on the 3 I-beams out on the island. And it was fun. That stayed there for a number of years, and I think it actually was put back there officially for a while. I don't know where the X4 is now, but it was a great memory. I think I probably have the record for being the one teaching at the academy the longest. I still teach at the Air Force Academy in the Writing Center. I've been there 3 years now, and this year I reached my 1200th meeting with the cadet. I meet one-on-one, 30 minutes at a time in the evenings between 4:30 and 9:30, helping them write essays. I agree with the previous comment. I think the cadets seem more content to be at the academy. The relationships with upperclassmen, very different than ours. Last year during Heritage Day, as some of the cadets were going through the memorial, there was a bunch of basics with their firstie cadre, and I said something about, well, I imagine you're glad that you'll be going into new squadrons. And all of the dualies said, no, the way it's arranged now, the cadre are in the same squadron that they're going to in the year. They said, no, he liked this firstie. He's really great. He's a great leader and so on. I just thought, it's not exactly the way I remembered firsties or even 2 degrees as a dually. Anyway, I too have written a book. I wrote it right after 2001. It's called In His Service, a guide to Christian living in the military. I had become a Christian while I was at the academy, and at the end of 30 years decided to write some insights. So probably it would be of service to any of you that have grandkids that are going into the military or neighbors or whatever. It's a great preparatory kind of book to help people think how they could continue to live faithfully as a Christian in the military without shelving everything they believed in youth group or whatever. Anyway, some of you know my wife died last year. Actually, we buried her a year ago yesterday in the Academy Cemetery. I was very fortunate some number of months later to meet a lady that lived up in up in the mountains of Colorado. Her husband was the mayor of Woodland Park, and he had died of COVID. My wife had died of a couple of rare diseases. Anyway, we married again in March, and so happily married, and introducing her to Academy life. We sponsor 6 cadets right now, 2 from each class, and we'll pick up 2 more this summer. So anyway, if any of you know of family members, friends, people from your town that are headed to the academy and are looking for a sponsor, we'd certainly like to sponsor cadets. And then lastly, I was a fencer at the academy. I started as a swimmer, and Nick Toth, some of you probably had him for PE, Hungarian coach, said, "Be right, you are a terrible swimmer. You should be a fencer." And so he literally skimmed me off the swimming team, and ended up fencing for 3 years. And I came back and coached the fencing team in the 80s. They've recently hired an Egyptian fencer as a coach, and he has done an amazing job, put the fencing team really on the front page again. This year they beat West Point 20-4 and Navy 20-6 in the same weekend. So yeah, it was just delightful. I went down and met him last week, and he's a kind of a fire-breathing, really neat guy, and he has a staff now of 3 or 4 other coaches, and so the fencing team should be doing well for the next decade. Great to see all of you, and if you're in Colorado Springs for other than a reunion, sometime just passing through, we have plenty of room to put you up and host you here. Thanks.
Bill, why don't you get back on again?
Thanks, guys. Great stories. Love them all. I just want you to know, our 100th night, I might have had a little bit too much beer. So I headed to the latrine, and I opened the door, and I heard, "God damn it, you made me miss." Our general was having a pissing contest in the men's room 100th night. So I said, wow, that's General Olds. And then I met Oshkosh with my lovely wife, and we're both in our flight suits. And I walk up to him. I said, hey, General Olds, you were my Commodore. He said, I don't remember your name. I don't remember your voice, but are you the kid that beat me at squash? I go, yes, sir, I was. He said, I kicked your ass the next 2 times. I said, yes, sir, you did, because the major told me I better not win again. And then I said, sir, would you like to go flying with us? He says, don't bullshit an old bullshitter. We went out to my T-28, and as we get there, the general says, Lieutenant, get in the back seat. Now, wait, it was my airplane, but I got in the back seat. He led a 10 ship of T-28s in formation for an hour and a half, doing all formation acrobatics. And we had a great time. We came down, took some pictures, and we have a picture of General Olds on one side, my wife in the middle, and me on the other end. And afterwards, she says, honey, do you know where his hand was? And I said, what? She says, he had his hand on my butt. I said, why did you say something? She says, he's a famous general. He's 83, I'm 48. I let him have a little thrill. So we had a great time, and we have some of those pictures. I did post where you can put any pictures you want to put up on my share file site. It's got massive memory and storage space, and I can give a link to anybody who wants to go see some of the pictures. I'm gonna put some up today of our reunion. I got about 10 videos I'm gonna put on there. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. We look forward to seeing you at the next reunion, whatever that is.
Anybody else want to jump in? All right, George, how about praying us out of here?
Let me just say one thing about reaction to Mark's observation of a good head of hair. And I'm not a religious person. I just can't go there. I'm sorry. But God did give each of our classmates a fixed amount of hair hormones. Some chose to grow hair with theirs.
Well, in that vein, praying for the religious and the irreligious, all of whom have hairs numbered by our God above, we just come to you and thank you for the friendships you've given us for these over 5 decades. Father, we grieve at the memory of each of our brothers that we have lost, and would pray that you in your providence would reach down and touch us in this last chapter of our lives. Only you know how many days we have left, and I pray that you would pour out your Spirit upon us and move us to do that which is pleasing in your sight and which will make a difference in our community, in our world, and in the fellowship we have here at the Air Force Academy. In Christ's name, I offer this prayer. Amen.
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 Amen. Bill Kirkman, thank you so much for kicking this off. And Tom, thank you for moderating this gaggle.
All right.
Thanks, Don. Bill out.
Thank you, guys. Be well.
Everybody stay well.
Take care.
Thanks. We really appreciate it.
Thanks again. This has been great.
We'll do it again.
Great day.
Hey,
happy
Rick.
anniversary.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, before you go, the other part of that moving the airplane onto the island was we put the I-beams back the next day, and I was standing out there and they sent a detail of dualies out to get that damn airplane off the island. And they had no idea. They just stood there for about 20 minutes and stared at it. And so then I think the powers that be decided they liked where it was, so they chained it down. So then, of course, being 70 and being cadets, the object was to move it back off of the island after they had chained it down. So we were out there in the middle of the night. I don't know if you were there or not, Rick, but we were out there with bolt cutters and we're trying to get the damn thing off the island. It's like 2 a.m. And all of a sudden a shadow falls over us, and it was our AOC. Rick, do you remember what his name was? I don't. It was Rick. Huh?
McCann. Major McCann.
He's a great guy. He's leaning over us and we're like, oh man, we're screwed. And he goes, hey, my truck's down there. You guys need any tools?
The good old days.
We couldn't get the damn thing off there. They really had it chained down. So it stayed there for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to put the bookend on that story, but yeah.
Thank you.
Well, good. Thank you all. This was great. Glad you could all show up. We will do it again.